Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are shifting gears a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Usually, we're looking outward at market trends or historical events or tech breakthroughs. But today, we are turning the lens inward.
Deeply inward.
We are on a mission, and I really don't use that word lightly. We have our notes, we have our source material, but the real goal today is to completely dismantle the popular image of something we all talk about.
We all meme about it.
Oh, constantly. But it turns out very few of us actually understand it.
It's a topic that feels so incredibly heavy. And yet, paradoxically, we treat it so lightly in, casual conversation.
You do.
We joke about it over coffee. We sometimes wear it like a badge of honor in team meetings. We're talking about burnout.
Exactly. And usually when we picture burnout, we picture the movie version, right?
The dramatic collapse.
The executive clutching their chest in the boardroom, the stockbroker screaming into a phone before smashing it, or, I don't know, the writer throwing their laptop out the window and moving to a yurt to raise goats.
Right. We think of it as hitting a wall.
A sudden, violent, totally undeniable stop.
Exactly. We think of it as an event, a single point in time where the whole system just fails. It's binary. You're either fine or you're burned out.
Right. On or off.
But the source material we are looking at today, which is this incredibly grounding and honestly somewhat unsettling breakdown from the QofeBreak series number 011 called The Anatomy of Erosion, it just flips that entire narrative on its head.
It really does. It suggests that if you're waiting for that big crash, you've already missed the most important part of the story.
You've missed the whole story.
The source argues that burnout isn't a collapse. It's not an explosion. It is a slow geological erosion. And that metaphor, that changed everything for me reading through this.
It's powerful.
It completely changes the physics of how we understand our own energy.
It's such a huge shift in perspective. And before we get into the mechanics of that erosion, because we're going to break down exactly how it happens, step by step, I think it's important to define who we're talking to today. Because this deep dive, it isn't really for the person who has already quit their job and, moved into that yurt.
No. And it's not for the person who is already in the hospital.
Right.
This is for the person who is listening to this right now, maybe on their commute, maybe folding laundry, maybe answering emails while half listening.
The person who is, for all intents and purposes, functioning.
Yes, maybe even functioning really, really well.
Yeah.
You're hitting your deadlines, you're showing up for your family, you're technically fine. But there is this background hum, this low-frequency vibration of fatigue that you've just learned to label as normal life.
That is the exact target for this research, the high performer. The person who thinks burnout is something that happens to other people.
People who aren't as tough or organized as they are.
Precisely. And the source makes it really clear. We are not here to give you a top 10 list of self-care tips.
Oh, thank goodness.
We're not going to tell you to take a bubble bath or buy a new planner or start a gratitude journal.
If I see one more productivity hack to cure exhaustion, I might actually scream.
Exactly. The goal today is simply to help you see the pattern, to see the geology of your own life so you can spot the erosion before the cliff edge actually appears.
It's about diagnostics, not quick fixes.
That's it.
So let's unpack this. Let's start with that core metaphor because it really anchors everything else in this discussion. The anatomy of erosion. Why that specific word?
It's so specific.
Why not depletion or exhaustion? What does erosion tell us?
Well, think about the difference between, say, an explosion and erosion. An explosion is loud, it's visible, it's immediate.
You know when it happens.
Everyone around you knows when it happens. It demands attention. But erosion is silent.
Yeah.
It's just wind and water against stone, day after day. If you look at a cliffside being worn away by the ocean, for 99% of that process, that cliff looks completely solid.
It looks unshakable. You could stand on it. You could build a house on it.
They could park your car on it. To the naked eye, nothing is happening at all.
But underneath?
Exactly. Underneath, at the waterline, structurally, it is being hollowed out. The structural integrity is gone long, long before the land actually falls into the sea.
And the source says burnout is exactly like that.
It's a process, not an event. The text says it so clearly. Burnout doesn't happen overnight.
It's the invisible accumulation. That's the scary part, I think. The source talks about mental load building over time. And I think this is where we get tripped up because we are really good at measuring acute stress.
Oh, for sure. We have a language for it.
Yeah, like if I have a terrible meeting where I get yelled at or a tight deadline that keeps me up until 2 in the morning or my car breaks down, I can point to that. I can say I am stressed.
Precisely. We can identify the cause and the effect. I am tired because I stayed up late finishing that report. It's a simple, linear equation.
But erosion is nonlinear.
Completely. It's the accumulation of 1,000 tiny, unmeasured moments. It's that mental load that never quite resets to zero at the end of the day.
And because we can't point to a single bad thing that happened today, we just assume we're okay.
We assume we're fine.
That's the trap. We wait for the collapse to acknowledge there's a problem. We think, well, I haven't had a panic attack and I haven't been fired, so I must not be burning out.
But the erosion is quiet. It's happening in the background while you're cooking dinner or watching TV.
And that quietness is what makes it so dangerous.
It really is. If we connect this to the bigger picture of how we work today, it's like we've lost the ability to track chronic wear and tear.
That's a great way to put it.
We treat our energy like a bank account that just magically resets every single morning. We think, I slept, so I'm back to 100%.
Yeah.
But erosion suggests it's more like the tread on a tire.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You don't notice the tread wearing down day by day. Everything seems fine.
Until you're sliding off the road in the rain.
And then it's too late. You suddenly have no traction.
Wow. So if the process is invisible, or at least really hard to see, how does it actually happen? The source material breaks this down into something it calls small compromises.
Yes. This is, for me, the most fascinating part of the whole thing. The mechanism of erosion isn't usually one giant catastrophe.
It's not the one massive project that breaks you?
No. It's what the source calls these small compromises.
Okay, so let's get granular here. What does a small compromise actually look like in the wild? Because it sounds so innocent. Compromise usually implies something good, like finding a middle ground.
And it is innocent in the moment. That's the whole point.
That's the trick.
A small compromise is skipping your lunch break because you're in the zone and you just want to power through.
We've all done that?
It's answering a Slack message at 7:30 at night because, it'll only take a second, and you don't want it hanging over you tomorrow.
Ooh, yes. Or pushing your bedtime back by 30 minutes to just doom scroll or get some of that revenge procrastination time because you feel like you haven't owned any part of your day.
I feel seen. That revenge bedtime procrastination, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
And it feels good in the moment. It feels like you're taking back control.
It really does.
We all do it. And here's the kicker. Individually, none of these compromises are a big deal. They cost you almost nothing.
Right. You can survive skipping one lunch. You can survive one late-night email. You can survive 10 of them.
Nobody dies because you checked your phone at the dinner table once. The sky doesn't fall.
But the source argues these aren't isolated events, are they?
Not at all. They create a pattern. They set a precedent. When you make these small compromises over and over again, you are essentially telling your brain and your body that the boundaries, they're permeable.
If they don't really matter.
They're optional. You are chipping away at the protective layer of your recovery time.
It's like taking a tiny teaspoon of dirt away from the base of that cliff every single day. 1 teaspoon doesn't matter at all.
You wouldn't even notice it.
But do it for 3 years straight.
And now you have a major structural problem. This leads directly to another key phrase from the text that I found deeply, deeply unsettling.
Which one?
The quiet normalization of stress.
Oh, that hit me hard too.
The quiet normalization. Let's dig into that, because how do we normalize something that is inherently bad for us? Biologically, isn't stress supposed to feel bad so we, stop doing the thing that's causing it?
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
But it's a survival mechanism. The human brain is just incredibly adaptive. It's designed to maintain homeostasis, to keep things in balance.
Okay.
So if you are placed in a high-pressure environment for a long period of time, your brain won't keep you in a state of high-alert panic forever. That consumes way too much energy.
You can't run from a tiger for 3 years.
You can't.
Yeah.
So instead, it recalibrates. It decides that this new high level of pressure is now the baseline. It's standard operating procedure.
So we stop registering the stress as high.
Exactly.
We just register it as Tuesday.
Correct. The alarm bells stop ringing. Not because the fire is out, but because the fires become the background temperature of the room.
Wow.
And this is the danger of our own adaptability. We get too good at handling the load.
We mask the fact that the load is way too heavy.
We do. And that explains why so many people, when they finally do crash, they say, I don't know what happened. I was handling everything just fine.
But they weren't handling it. They were just numb to the weight of it all. They'd lost the signal.
They had normalized the erosion.
Hmm.
And the source points to a specific driver of this normalization that's critical for everyone listening. It's what they call constant pressure.
Okay.
But they make a distinction here that is so important. It's not necessarily about the intensity of the work.
It's not that you're lifting heavy rocks for 12 hours a day.
No, it's the availability.
Yes, the constant availability. That's a huge factor in the modern workplace.
It's the absence of a real off switch. The source notes that the erosion process is driven more by the lack of recovery time than by the difficulty of the task itself.
That's interesting.
There's a classic demonstration of this. If I ask you to hold up a glass of water, is it heavy?
No, it's light. A few ounces, maybe?
But if I ask you to hold it out at arm's length for 24 hours straight without putting it down for even a second, what happens?
My arm would fall off, the muscles would just seize up. Complete failure.
Exactly. The muscles fail. Not because the glass got any heavier, but because the duration of the tension was too long. It is not the weight, it is the duration.
And in our digital world, we never put the glass down.
Never. The notifications, the mental check-ins, I'll just check if they replied, it keeps that tension constant, even at a low level.
And even when we aren't actively working, we're thinking about work, or we're accessible to work. That little red dot on the phone screen is basically a weight we're holding with our minds all the time.
Which brings us to what I think is the most counterintuitive part of this entire deep dive. We assume burnout happens to people who are fragile, or people who just can't hack it. If you burn out, there's this quiet, societal whisper that maybe you weren't organized enough or you weren't tough enough.
Sure, there's a stigma of weakness.
But the source makes a very bold claim. It says, burnout isn't weakness.
I loved that line. But it goes even further, doesn't it? It suggests that burnout is actually a side effect of being strong.
It is. It's what you could call the reliability paradox. The source says burnout is usually the result of staying functional for too long without relief.
Just think about that phrase, staying functional without relief.
To do that requires immense strength. It requires discipline, focus, and a huge amount of resilience.
So the people who are most at risk aren't the ones who flake out or can't handle pressure.
Not at all.
It's the ones who are the go-to people, the ones who can always push through, the ones everyone relies on because they always get it done.
Exactly. If you are the person who can always find a way to make it work, you are the person most likely to erode because you have a highly developed capacity to override your body's own stop signals.
You can ignore the warning lights on the dashboard.
You're an expert at it.
Yeah.
And the source suggests that this very persistence, which our culture holds up as the ultimate virtue, can quietly turn into damage.
That is a chilling pivot. When does a virtue become a vice?
When it disconnects you from the reality of your own physical and mental state. The source mentions, and this is a key quote, that long before anyone hits a wall, there are warning signs most people learn to dismiss.
Okay, let's speculate on that for a second. The text specifically mentions ignored fatigue. What do these signs actually look like? Because if we've already normalized the stress, we might not even recognize them as warning signs.
That's the problem. And based on the logic of this high-functioning erosion, the signs are likely physical, but subtle.
It's not collapsing in the hallway.
No. It's brain fog that you just clear with a third cup of coffee.
Oh.
It's a persistent irritability with your spouse or your kids that you blame on their behavior rather than your own exhaustion.
Oh, that's a big one.
It's waking up in the morning and not feeling rested at all, but getting out of bed anyway because that's what adults do.
We interpret those signs as hurdles to be overcome, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm tired. I just need to jump over this tiredness to get to the weekend. We don't see the tiredness as a stop sign. We see it as an obstacle between us and the goal.
We treat the body as this inconvenient vessel that we just have to drag across the finish line rather than a system that needs to be maintained to get there in the first place.
In a culture of productivity, stopping feels like failure.
It does. So when the body whispers, hey, I really need a break, the high-functioning mind hears, you are being lazy, push harder, and it overrides the signal.
And that act of overriding is the erosion.
That's it.
That is the wave crashing against the cliff. Every single time you override, you take another teaspoon of dirt away from the foundation.
Precisely. And this is why the source says persistence quietly turns into damage. It looks exactly the same on the outside. You are still answering the emails. You are still making it to the meetings. You're still the reliable one.
But internally,
the biological cost of that activity has skyrocketed. You are borrowing energy from a future you cannot possibly afford to pay back.
This leads us to the section of the source material that I found really liberating, but also, I have to admit, kind of frustrating.
Because it removes the easy answer.
It removes the easy answer. We want the quick fix. We want to know, okay, I get it, I'm eroding, what do I do? Take a vacation, go to a spa.
And the source comes back with a resounding no, or at least not just that.
Okay.
They're a specific line. This isn't about grinding harder or taking a single day off and hoping for the best.
Let's talk about that. Why isn't a day off the answer? I love days off. I feel like if I just had a 3-day weekend every week, I'd be fixed.
We all feel that way. But think back to the geology metaphor. If a cliff has been eroded by the ocean for 10 years, I mean deep structural damage, and you make the ocean go perfectly calm for 24 hours, is the cliff fixed?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The structure is still compromised, the holes are still there, the cracks are still running through it.
Right. The structural integrity is gone. A single day of rest treats the symptom, which is the acute tiredness you feel today, but it doesn't address the underlying pattern of erosion that got you there.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a crumbling foundation.
That's a perfect analogy. It might hide the crack for a minute, but it is not holding the building up.
That makes so much sense, and it explains that feeling of the Sunday scaries. You know that feeling.
Oh, I know it well.
You try to relax all weekend, but around 4 p.m. on Sunday, this wave of dread just sets in. Because the rest didn't actually fix the core problem, you're just about to re-enter the erosion zone.
Exactly. You haven't changed the environment, you've just paused the punishment for a little while. And actually, the source identifies an even more dangerous reaction than just taking a day off.
Yeah.
It talks about the instinct to grind harder.
Oh, yeah. I'll just power through this mentality. I'll work late tonight so I can finally relax tomorrow. But of course, tomorrow never comes.
That's what they call the feedback loop of depletion. The source explicitly rejects grinding harder. But here's the insidious trap.
Okay.
As you erode, you naturally become less efficient.
Right. Brain fog, lack of focus. Tasks that used to be easy now take forever.
Exactly. Writing that simple report used to take you an hour, now it takes 2 or 3. So to keep up your standard of performance, because remember, you're a high performer, that's your identity.
You have to work longer hours just to get the same result.
You have to push harder just to stay in the same place.
Which causes more erosion.
Which makes you even less efficient.
Which makes you work even harder. Oh, it's a downward spiral.
It's a perfect vicious cycle. And grinding harder in that state is literally accelerating the collapse. You are revving the engine while the oil light is flashing on the dashboard.
You aren't fixing the car, you're blowing the gasket.
You're destroying the engine.
So if we can't grind our way out, and a single day off won't fix it, what does the source actually offer? Because they're very clear, this isn't a motivational speech with a 3-step cure.
No magic pill here.
No. So what's the first step?
The focus of the source is entirely on recognizing patterns early. It shifts the goal away from curing burnout and towards simply seeing the mental load for what it is.
That sounds simple, but it's actually really hard. It sounds almost passive, like just watch the erosion happen.
It sounds passive, but it's an incredibly active observation. It requires you to stop frantically looking for a solution and start honestly looking at your environment and your habits.
It's about acknowledging the reality of the situation.
Yes, you have to look at your daily life, at all those small compromises, and just admit to yourself, this is costing me something.
It's about validation, in a way, validating that low-level hum of fatigue is real and it means something.
Absolutely. When you finally understand that burnout is slow erosion, you stop blaming yourself for being weak. When you feel the fatigue,
the shame goes away.
The shame goes away. You realize, I'm not weak. I've just been standing in the surf, getting hit by waves for 5 straight years.
That perspective shift is huge. It moves you out of shame and into structural engineering.
That's like that.
If you think you're weak, you try to hide it and push harder. If you realize you're eroded, you try to protect the structure.
And once you remove the shame, you can start making different choices. Maybe you don't answer that email at dinner, not because you're lazy, but because you are protecting the cliffside. You are doing necessary structural maintenance.
You start treating your recovery time not as a reward for working hard, oh, I finished the big project, now I get to sleep, but as a prerequisite for being able to work at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You stop waiting for the crash to justify the need for rest. You rest to prevent the crash.
You respect the geology.
You respect the geology.
It's just been such an eye-opener. It really changes the definitions we all live by. It's not about doing more yoga. It's about understanding the basic physics of your own capacity.
It moves us from a dramatic, event-based view of our own lives to a much more subtle, process-based view.
So let's wrap this up for the learner listening right now. We've covered a lot of ground today. We started by completely dismantling the movie version of burnout.
Right.
We've gone from viewing it as a sudden crash to seeing it as a slow geological erosion.
And we've moved from blaming personal weakness to understanding that it is often a result of functional endurance without relief.
It's a tax on your reliability.
That's a great way to put it.
And we've learned that feeling tired, even if you are getting everything done on your to-do list, might not be just life. It might be the sound of the waves hitting the rocks. It might be the sound of erosion happening in real time.
And that is the signal to pay attention to. Not the final crash, but the quiet, constant sound of the erosion. If you can hear the waves, you can still save the cliff.
As we sign off, is there a final thought? Something from this deep dive into the anatomy of erosion that is still sticking with you?
There is. It's a question that sort of arises from the source's core logic about high-functioning people. We pride ourselves on our resilience. We build our identities around our ability to push through.
It's what we're rewarded for.
It is. But if that variability is what masks the warning signs, if it's what allows us to ignore the erosion until it's too late,
Here it comes, the gut punch.
the question is this: if your capacity to push through is actually what is putting you in danger, at what point does your resilience become your liability?
That is something to sit with. At what point does your greatest strength become the problem? Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.